Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Abigail Shaw, the Mentor Coordinator for the College Success Program. And just some housekeeping on using Zoom for our webinar tonight. We're going to hold all questions till later in the hour, and feel free to add things in the chat as we go, but we'll address them later on. If you're calling in, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. On the Mac, the raise hand feature is option Y, and on a PC, it should be Alt Y. And we will use the raise hand function later if you would prefer to ask your question rather than type it in the chat. And I'll be monitoring those things. So thank you for joining us, and we'll get started shortly.
Hi everybody, my name is Kristen Waitaki. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the Curriculum and Content Editor for the College Success Program, and I'll be keeping time on tonight's event. I'll turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you, Kristen. Again, this is our Assistive Technology webinar, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, which assistive technology do I need at college? On this webinar, we have 3 guest speakers. The first is Emily Vasile. She is a mentor for our College Success Program. She's also a faculty member at the Department of Blindness and Low Vision Studies at Salus University, and she is the program coordinator of the National Leadership Consortium in Sensory Disabilities at Salus University. She is certified in elementary education and special education in the state of New Jersey, as well as a certified teacher of students with visual impairments in both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. She is also a certified low vision therapist through the Academy for Certification of Vision Rehabilitation and Education Professionals. Her areas of expertise include low vision rehabilitation and education of students with visual impairments. Born with a cataract in her left eye and later on diagnosed with glaucoma, Emily never let her visual impairment define her ability to succeed. In her free time, she enjoys hiking, yoga, and mindfulness, exploring, reading, singing and performing, and making art. We also have Megan Dausch. She is a College Success Program mentor as well. She has a bachelor's in English, Spanish, and French from Manhattanville College and a master's in language and literacy from the City College of New York. She is an advocate, a perpetual learner, teacher, cook, and technology enthusiast who loves to read and write. She currently teaches adaptive technology. Megan enjoys being a part of the College Success Program and supporting students through their journeys in higher education, as college is often a time of challenge, transition, and joyful exploration. We have Jessica Karim, who is a member of our College Success Program and is a college student herself. She is a 20-year-old college junior majoring in social work. When not studying, she can be found with a good book, usually a psychological thriller. She also enjoys swimming and finds that it is a great form of self-care. Her other loves include Harry Potter, iced coffee, and advocacy. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Jessica, who is going to get us started.
All right, so I'm just going to start by posing the first question to both Megan and Emily, which is, what are some differences between high school and college to keep in mind from an assistive technology perspective?
Megan, do you want to start this one or should I?
And if you want, I'll do the next one, or that's fine.
Sure, I'll begin.
Okay.
So this is Emily. I think that one of the biggest things that's different between high school and college from an assistive technology perspective is more or less a responsibility perspective of your own assistive technology. In high school, you might have a TVI or an AT specialist or somebody who's working directly with you to help you manage all of your devices. And in college, that person doesn't really exist. You are solely responsible for troubleshooting and making sure that you have everything that you need for class. And there isn't somebody who's necessarily going to be there to be like, hey, did you charge your video magnifier before class today? Or giving you those reminders about maintaining and managing your devices. So I would say one of the biggest differences between those two is just the added responsibility that you will need to take going into college to kind of maintain and support your devices.
This is Megan speaking. Just to add a little bit more to what Emily said, I definitely agree with everything that she just said there. You do have a change in support system, and you are going to be responsible for your technology and for educating others about it. You also might need to advocate more for accessibility, and you also may need to explain the limitations of your technology. You won't have a TVI there to explain them for you. So you'll need to explain a challenge, if you have one, to your professor and your disability services office. Knowing the limitations is really important, and just being the expert on your own technology and reaching out to find resources when you need to. Those are definitely some differences.
It's Jessica. Just to reiterate that point, I definitely think accountability is key. Going from a system where you have everything and you know people, and there are people designed to kind of keep you in check, to a situation where you're basically on your own with technology. You will have to do a lot of advocacy and awareness just around what your own needs are and how to express those needs to people that might not be as aware. All right, moving right along. Again, this is for both Emily and Megan. Either of you could start. It's, what are some ways that students can learn about technology they are not familiar with?
This is Megan. Is it okay if I start, Emily?
Sure.
Okay. So one piece of advice I would say is just read everything you can. Read blogs. The American Foundation for the Blind has Access World, which is a really great resource for technology. Read the product documentation. I know it's not fun, but that is a great way to become educated about technology. Talk to your friends. Join social media groups for assistive technology users. Work with, if you can, organizations for the blind, ACB, NFB. They are all great resources to find out about technology. All of those organizations have student email lists and student organizations. They can also help you in finding out what technology your peers are using. And if you can't find the answers to questions, you can always talk to the vendors of the technology. Send them an email and say, I'm really having trouble with this part of the technology, or this technology, I want to know if I'm able to use a certain feature. Does this piece of technology have this certain feature that I'm looking for? So the companies themselves are also great resources. And just ask people in your networks what they like about certain technologies, what they dislike, and how they're working for them.
I think Megan makes a lot of great points, and I agree with all of those. The one thing I would also just like to add is also be on the lookout for conferences, national conferences, AFB, NFB, ACB. A lot of conferences that people don't necessarily know about is AER, which is mostly for education and rehabilitation professionals, vision professionals, but anyone can really go to it. And a lot of these conferences have giant vendor halls where people vendors who have products that are, assistive technology products, and you can try them out there and ask questions of the people who, work with these devices every day. So definitely checking out conferences. AER, most states have their own chapter. So Pennsylvania and Delaware share a chapter where I'm from. So it's called the Pendel AER. But yeah, you definitely, check out conferences, because those, I think, are one of the biggest places where you're going to find all of those people together, collectively showing all of their devices. So just another piece to add.
Awesome. Thank you both. Those are all some really great points. Just to add on really quickly, I definitely think the one about reaching out to other people. When I was going to college, I had friends that were in college a couple years above me, and I would just kind of text them just like, hey, what do you use? Just so you can get a feel for what they like, what they prefer. I also really quickly want to add to reach out to your disabilities office, because while you might be accustomed to something, they might also have suggestions. So for example, I was given Open Book software, which is a PDF scanner when just kind of from my state's commission here in New York before I started college. And then my school provided me with Kurzweil 1000, which is also a PDF scanner software. So I think it never hurts to reach out to them just because you don't know, if there's something that they have that you might not be aware of. All right, next question. Again, for both of you, anyone can start. It's what resources can help to cover the cost of technology?
This is Emily. I think one of the biggest resources is your state agency. Keep in mind if you, if you're registered with your state vision services or not, because they often have federal quota money that they use to help purchase devices, evaluations, services, even O&M services or VRT. So definitely making sure that you are registered with your state vision services, because that's where you can get some funding to help you purchase these devices.
This is Megan speaking. Definitely, I agree. VR is, like Emily said, the main funding source for a lot of people. There are sometimes, other options. You could look into some local grants. Also, the Association of Blind Citizens, I believe, offers a grant program for funding adaptive technology. Local Lions clubs also can sometimes provide support if you are not connected with VR or can't get VR to fund certain things. Local Lions clubs can be a great way to work to collaboratively to get that technology that you need. Local nonprofits as well might be able to assist. And then another program I just wanted to briefly mention is the I Can Connect program, which if you have a combined hearing and vision loss, will provide you with telecommunications equipment if you meet certain guidelines. So if you do have both a hearing and vision loss, that program may be something you could look into.
And also just keep in mind about scholarships as well. A lot of college students, look for scholarship funding in any area. But sometimes there are specific scholarships for individuals who are blind or low vision. So it's good to just be on the lookout for these types of things, because they definitely do exist. People who, are looking to give away, funds to people who could really use devices.
One other quick thing I just wanted to mention, the American Council for the Blind, I believe, does have a list of various funding sources for adaptive technology on their website. So they have a list there that you can kind of peruse. I know the the Association for Blind Citizens is one of those items on that list.
Great, excellent points from you both. Thank you. So the next few questions are going to be kind of back and forth, one from a visually impaired perspective, one from a blindness perspective, just so you guys get both of those points. So the first one is for Emily, and it is, what devices or apps might be most helpful with academics for students with low vision?
So this is such a loaded question because there are so many things out there, but I put together just a list of a few apps that I thought would be helpful. And I actually have my phone with me, so I can show you, those of you who have low vision, the app, and for those of you who don't, I will describe what it looks like for you. But just the icon. So for this first app, it's called Visor, and the icon is shaped like an eyeball with different colors going on rings going into the inside. And this is like basically turns your phone into a video magnifier. So it gives you the option to change colors, change color contrast. It kind of zooms things in. You can see my eye really large right now, but it zooms things in. You can change background, which is really great. If you don't have a handheld video magnifier on your own, it's a quick way to just whip out your phone and use that as a device to help you read. There's another app called Seeing AI, which is great, which allows you to take a picture of any text Actually, I just realized I didn't zoom in for the Seeing AI one. The Seeing AI app is a turquoise color, also in the shape of an eye with an S in the middle. And it allows you to take a photo of any text, and then it will read the text out loud to you. So that's pretty cool. It has some trouble sometimes with handwriting, but if a professor hands out an article or a worksheet or something, and the text isn't big enough for you to be able to access, and you don't have any other devices with you, that app is a great resource as well. Nowadays, it seems like a lot of phone companies are catching on about built-in magnifiers. So those of you who are iPhone users, there is a built-in magnifier on your iPhone, which is really great, that you can set it on your phone. I just do a triple tap on mine, but it kind of looks like the camera, but it just allows you to zoom in and out, as well as change color contrast for various grays and invert your colors, which is also a great option. One of my other favorite apps is called Voice Stream Reader, and the icon, lining it up here, the icon looks like an open book with almost like an orange exclamation point coming out of it. And Voice Stream Reader is pretty cool because it allows you to upload anything, whether it's textbooks or worksheets or articles or PDF documents, anything, and it allows you to not only read it, but if you want to edit things, like I have a Word document that my professor sent me, and I just put it right in here, and it'll read it directly to me. It was sent, in an email. So it's kind of similar to those of you who use Bookshare's Read to Go app, in the sense that the text is synthesized and automated. It's not a live reader like Learning Ally's app or Learning Ally books, but it's a great quick way to be able to get all of that information if you need it to be read out loud to you. So those are just a few. Oh, there's one more. I just love it. It's called Supervision, and it's does a similar thing, gives you like a handheld magnifier, and the app icon is like a superhero wearing sunglasses, and he has a superhero like outfit on. And it does a similar thing where it allows you to not only zoom in, but change the background, change the color, and the size of these, it zooms in pretty large. So I have my notes for today's session, and if I hold it up here, you can actually see the text is like, it's pretty gigantic. And I just realized it's probably zooming in on the wrong side. But it really gets very, very large, which is great. Once again, if you're, let's say you're not only just in school, in a class, but let's say you need to run to the grocery store, you need to run to the pharmacy or something. And most of us at this point have our phones with us, I would say all of the times. So it's really great to be able to have a variety of options. I have a folder on my phone that has all of those apps in there. So that way I can pull it out whenever I need it based on what my task is for. So most of the apps that I'm talking about are a video magnification.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emily. Those were really interesting, especially when it came to the descriptions, because I can't see the description, so thanks for that. Also, just to add on really quickly to what you said, with VoiceStream, you can also import from like Google Drive and Dropbox. So even if you have something sent to you in Drive, you can just go in there from the app, import it, and you're good. So Megan, just to quickly turn the tables on you a little bit, what devices or apps might be most helpful with academics for students who are blind?
Sure. Well, like Emily said, this question, we could talk about it forever. There are just a plethora of devices and apps that would be useful. So just to kind of give a quick overview, I would definitely recommend developing a toolkit of different apps and devices that you can use in various situations. Of course, you're going to want a computer with a screen reader in college. And so on that computer, I would definitely recommend having at least 2 web browsers, because sometimes you will have to do some work for school or go on a website and it won't work well with one browser. So it's always good to have 2. Also, get familiar with Google Docs. That's a very commonly used app in college and very important to become familiar with, as well as your college's learning management system, whether it be Canvas or Moodle or whatever you might use. Also, download these apps on your phone. So Google Docs, your learning management system, all of those different apps. You always want to have backups. So download those on your phone so that you don't depend on one device or piece of assistive technology. I think flexibility is really key in college and beyond, really. While your disability services office can definitely help you scan documents, you might want to look into a way to scan worksheets in your room or at home. Or even in class, you might look at getting a Pearl camera. If you're a PC user, you can use Pearl with JAWS to actually scan a document that your professor might hand you in class, and you can scan that document into your computer. And you can also just get a regular scanner and use OpenBook or Kurzweil. Additionally, you can look at getting Seeing AI, as Emily talked about before. That is also a very excellent app for people who are blind to use to scan documents and have them read out loud. Voice Stream Scanner is another scanning option that you might like to check out in addition to Seeing AI. KNFB Reader, there are a plethora of these different scanning apps available, so it's good to just try a couple and see what might work best for you. If you're a Braille reader, having access to a Braille display can be really invaluable for proofreading your work and also making presentations. But that being said, I think it's still important to, in your high-tech kit, include your low-tech as well. So bring your Braille writer along with you, because you never know when your Braille display might break.
All right, thank you so much to you both. Definitely agree when it comes to having both high and low tech, even something as simple as like a label maker, because you never know. All right, next question is for Emily, and it is, what devices or apps might be helpful for home or dorm room use to students with low vision?
So for devices, I know I talked a lot about apps already, but devices wise, there are a lot of low vision devices that are mostly optical devices. So that means they would need to be prescribed by a low vision optometrist in order for you to get the correct magnification that you would need. But one that's really great to have is if you have trouble seeing distances, a handheld monocular or telescope would be really good to have, not only for like O&M purposes, for travel and being able to read, street signs and bus signs, but also within a classroom. Sometimes you're in lecture halls where, there are hundreds of people within, one college room. So having just that small device can really help you to be able to see whether it's something that's written on the board or a presenter or a PowerPoint if it's not able to be, streamed directly to your device. Another device that is really good to have for those who need some near vision support is just a handheld magnifier. So to many people that looks like a magnifying glass, you might buy it like a drugstore. It's really important, again, that you have somebody prescribe the correct magnification, so that way it's specific to your eyes and what you need. These are quick. I would say also a low-tech device, as Megan said. Some of them come with lights, some of them don't. But that's also a quick thing to have to shove in your backpack. If, let's say your phone dies and you don't have those magnifying apps on your phone, you do have a quick handheld magnifier that you can use. There are also a variety of other devices that help with near and distance viewing, such as there's one called a max detail that helps with computers. It's very low magnification, but it helps just to maximize computer vision if you don't have, let's say, Zoom text or something along those lines. Zoom text, I would say, is definitely a must, not only for just being able to browse computers or like articles for school, but also just be able to browse the internet and giving you a magnification to enhance your screen.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Megan, turning that question back on you. What devices or apps might be helpful for home or dorm use to students who are blind?
So seeing AI, again, can be really helpful in your dorm room for identifying products like boxes of cereal or whatever you might have, any kinds of products. Seeing AI will help you do that. Way Around is another app that you might find useful in your dorm room. It's an app that will, you can purchase little tags and you can affix them to different items around your room, even clothing if you want. They have tags for clothing, and then you can record your own label into your phone and hold your phone near your tag, and your phone will tell you what that item is, the label that you have created for it. So that might be useful when you're organizing your room. Also, having a color identifier may be helpful. If you for sorting laundry, or just knowing what colors you're wearing, having a color identifier, a separate unit might be helpful. Sometimes the apps are not the most accurate, although, your mileage may vary. That might be something to bring along with you. Other apps that might come in handy, just kind of in general around your dorm, Be My Eyes is a useful app, possibly for getting visual information about anything you need. Volunteers will assist you through video over your phone. And then, of course, Ira is a great app for similar processes of wanting visual information about where you are, or anything really that you need visual assistance with. And of course, you might want to bring along apps that you enjoy for downtime in your room. So making sure you have your music app situated, your book app. If you're a reader, VoiceStream Reader can import directly from Bookshare. So in addition to your things that are practical, you might want to make sure you pack some fun apps as well.
Great, thank you both so much. Just to let you know, for time-wise, we have about 10 minutes left, 4 questions left. So I want to say a minute each take. These next couple questions are, again, open-ended, so anyone can start. Next one is, what are some tips for figuring out what technology will work best for a student? Either of you can go first.
Okay, so one thing I would say is see if you can put your hands on the technology. That's really the best way to determine if it will work best for you, is to actually try it out and touch it. Another way that I mentioned before is to really read the manual and interact with the vendor. Again, it might not be fun to read the manual, but it's the best way to figure out what something will be able to do. And again, asking questions directly to the vendors and asking your peers about what they like about it. But ultimately, I think the best thing to do if you want to try to assess whether something will work for you is to try it out.
Also, from a low vision perspective, keep in mind those state services. Oftentimes you can get an assistive technology evaluation done. So if you're really kind of at a loss for what to look for, there are people out there who can actually do an evaluation, which will really help narrow down which devices will be best for you.
Great, thank you both. Definitely agree with evaluations. I did a lot of tech training before I started college, and it was so useful just to have someone there to kind of aid me in picking what was best. All right, next one, also open-ended. What are some strategies to identify which equipment or programs may work well for you and which might not?
I would say to, again, try as many as you can. If you think about what you like in a program. You know, what is this program doing really well that you like? What isn't it doing well for you? If you're trying to decide, say, between JAWS and NVDA or between two screen readers in general, you know, try them both out. Is one of them too verbose? Is one of them not giving you enough information? Is one too slow? Don't limit yourself either. You know, if you can use two screen readers, use two screen readers. If you have the option to have both, have both. And I think definitely working with, if you have the option of working with VR and working with an adaptive technology instructor, getting their perspective as well and asking asking questions to them about, you know, what will work well, and they'll also be able to help kind of guide you.
Nothing further to add. Megan answered that perfectly.
Awesome. Okay, so on the off chance something happens, so here's the next one. If you need to start using a different device or app in the middle of the semester, is there any way to plan ahead for that so that the disruption can have less impact for you as a blind or visually impaired college student?
I think Megan mentioned this briefly before, but having those low-tech devices available as backup. So there's going to be some transition regardless of, you know, if you're going from one device to another, but having a backup that is an easy default for you. So whether it's a Braille reader, whether it's bold line notebook paper and a 2020 pen, or something, you know, that allows you to still do what you need to do while you're transitioning to a new device. So definitely, you know, rely on those low-tech devices as well and keep them in your toolkit.
I definitely agree with Emily for sure. I think she covered it really well. Have a backup plan. That I think is going to help really minimize, or try as best you can to minimize the impact of change. And I think another thing you can do too is really learn the ins and outs of your screen reader or the technology that you have. Because the learning basic skills and advanced skills might help you explore new apps, or, you know, cope better with the changes. For example, recently I was in a Zoom meeting and I needed to click a link in the chat, and I realized that JAWS wasn't letting me do that. So I used JAWS speech history to copy the link. So knowing kind of the ins and outs of your screen reader can help you kind of cope when things change.
Those are all great points. Thank you both. And then, so what if a student isn't planned or hasn't been able to plan ahead for whatever reason? What are some tips for them, and then kind of minimizing that impact, assuming they haven't been able to plan?
So can I just clarify the question? So you're saying if a student hasn't been able to plan ahead to get new technology, how to minimize?
Exactly.
Okay.
And something happens midway.
Yeah, I think just hitting home that low tech, you know, have your backup plan, you know, in the beginning of the semester, have those extra tools. And then if you find yourself stuck, you know, go to your disability services. You know, they're there for these reasons, to be able to help you navigate when you're going through some difficulty. So definitely reach out to your resources.
Definitely. I would say, you know, as soon as you hit a bump in the road, reach out to your network, your support system, whoever that may be, your disability services office, you know, your peers in groups you're a part of. Reach out as soon as you can. You know, I know sometimes in the beginning when something happened, it's tempting to try to just like, oh, maybe tomorrow it'll be better. And yeah, it might be, but it's always good to just kind of let people know what you're going through, especially if it's going to, you know, affect your school and your academic. So you want to make sure you're on top of all of that. So if you all of a sudden have an inaccessible PDF that you have to read for homework next week, instead of waiting until Saturday to email your professor or your disability services office, definitely, you know, do that as soon as you can. And just reach out, you know, to your peers to see if maybe they've been in situations similar to yours and maybe can help guide you and give you some support.
Thank you both. Definitely agree on reaching out. There's nothing more terrifying than having something not work and not talking to anyone about it. As someone that has a lot of anxiety, just really reach out so you're not stressed out. Also, just for time's sake, there's about 4 minutes left and there are 2 questions. So about a minute, each for these last 2. Next one. What do you talk about? How do you talk your assistive technology with your peers and professors?
Megan, is it okay if I take the professor standpoint?
Of course.
So I think that one of the biggest things is, as soon as you know who your professors are, send them an email. Ask to meet with them, whether it's during their office hours or after class. But send them an email explaining who you are, explaining your needs, and explaining your technology. And then I would always, even if you can't meet with them after class, at the end of class, I would always go up, introduce myself, remind them who I am, remind them of my email, and remind them that I want to set up a meeting. You make sure that you stick that name to the face. You want them to know who you are. And for some people who might be shy and a little bit introverted, this can kind of be hard to really, push forward that self-advocacy, but it's so important that you make a name for yourself and that they know who you are, because that's going to be easier when you get to that bump in the road and they know exactly how to help you and how to help you navigate around that.
I think Emily gave awesome advice in terms of going to your professors and emailing, early and talking to them early. Just to add just a little more, I feel like people are genuinely very curious about adaptive technology and how it works. So, I feel like a lot of times people will want to talk about it and they will have questions about it. And so a lot of times it might just help to kind of explain that adaptive technology works to let you do basically what your sighted peers do. It just works a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I know personally, I've had to explain to peers sometimes in, study group situations and also professors and others, is that, my screen reader kind of reads things in a very linear fashion. So talking about something being on the top right of the page or the top left of the page might not really help me. So I will demonstrate that to them, how a screen reader works or how a piece of technology works. And I feel like demonstrating is sometimes the best way to really show someone how technology works. And if it's not possible to demonstrate to them and they really want to know, you could probably find a video on YouTube or something like that to share with someone using your piece of technology.
Excellent points, especially about the email. I have an email template, literally, that's just blank, that I put professors' information in and class information in that I send out just to let them know who I am.
I always did the exact same thing, Jess.
Me too.
I'm such a type A, it's terrible. Okay, last question here. It's, what are some good technology tips to keep in mind during this period of remote or hybrid learning?
Would you like to go first, Megan?
I'm sorry, did you already start talking?
No.
My audio
cut out. No, I didn't. No, you're okay.
Okay.
You can go.
Okay. So I think one of the most important things I would say to kind of think about is know that you're not alone, that we're all kind of doing this whole new hybrid learning, distance learning. We're all kind of in this together. So don't feel like you're alone if you are frustrated that, your Zoom isn't working or you can't figure out how to access Microsoft Teams, because even though your peers might be not using a screen reader, they are, I'm pretty sure, just as frustrated at, certain other situations with distance learning. So you're not alone in the distance learning arena. And I would also say, if you're preparing to start next semester and it's going to be online, see if you can find what technology your professors will be using ahead of time and then do like a dry run. So if you can do a Zoom meeting or, whatever meeting platform they're using, if you want to practice doing that ahead of time to kind of feel more comfortable, that might be a way to kind of just prepare. And just, have a backup plan. Again, I feel like we've talked a lot about that, but try it on your phone and your computer or your iPad and your phone, or always know with Zoom meetings, you can call in on the telephone if you need to. So always kind of have just other options in your mind.
I think Megan said it perfectly. I literally put on here, technology fails and that's okay. And I think this pandemic has really brought to light all of our needs as people with visual impairments, in the fact that, technology is failing and everybody is now experiencing it, not just those of us who use it on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's letting others start to see maybe some of the struggles that we go through when our technology fails. But I think it's great because it's letting the world relate to us a little bit better. So just know, like Megan said, you're not alone, and other people are starting to understand what it's like when technology fails and we can't, there's nothing we can do about it. But besides that, having your backup plan, checking multiple devices, I think Megan really hit it home perfectly.
All such excellent points, especially the one about people adapting. My school is finally doing mobile ordering because of this pandemic. So it really goes to show how adaptive technology and universal design can help everyone.
For sure.
Great. Thank you all so far for this great conversation. I'm going to pull up some questions that we have in the chat. And then I know we have at least one participant who raised their hand that has a question. So if there's anyone else who would like to ask questions of Emily, Megan, or even Jessica, who's a current college student, we'll start a queue and I'll unmute folks. But I'm going to start with a couple of questions that came through the chat. So our first question was from Jillian. Let me just get my focus there. So she wants to know, I think, Emily, this might be best directed at you. Megan, you might have some perspective for students who are totally blind. But do you know any students that are using screen sharing apps such as Join.me or interactive pins to see handwriting instead of having to use a human note taker?
So I personally have not, but I know that there are a lot of pens out there and devices that allow for, a live writing. I recently purchased for myself a Rocket Book, which allows you to, write in the notebook, but then you can basically scan in your devices, your pages, your notes, and then it allows you to upload it to any, to the Rocket Book app, but then to any platform that can convert your handwritten text into like typed text, so computerized text. So there is that kind of note taking that's out there to help convert it. But I personally have not used any like live screen sharing when it comes to handwriting. It kind of reminds me of I'm dating myself, like an overhead projector almost, right, where the teacher would write with the marker and it would project it on the board. But I'm sure that there are similar things that, now you can just connect straight to, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or any technology that could share it. I just haven't been one to use them.
Great. And Megan, do you have anything to add to that? I don't personally know of accessible ways that might work with a screen.
Yeah, no, this is Megan. I don't either. I think one option, if screen shares and things are being done, is just to ask for information ahead of time.
Okay, great. And this question's from Priscilla. She asks, do totally blind people benefit from an iPad?
This is Megan's. I can answer that if you want, or start to answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can use an iPad as a totally blind person. Certainly, it really depends on what your preference is. So I would say to try it out and see if you like it. Sometimes people feel the larger screens are too confusing and they get lost. Some people love them. So it really depends on your preference, but you certainly can use one as a totally blind person. And if that's your preference, then that's awesome. So explore your preferences and try it out. Go to an Apple store when it's safe to do so and play with one.
Jessica, really quickly, I agree with that completely. And even if you're not comfortable using it, like I don't like it because of the screen size, but I like it because I can connect like a keyboard stand to it and then use it as kind of a laptop almost in a sense where I can just type on it as opposed to having to use my phone for everything. So it really is all about personal preference.
Thank you both. Okay, so Alira is our first hand raisee.
Oh.
Go for
Hello.
it, Alira.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 comments and a question. My first comment is with apps that use the camera like Seeing AI, and there's another one called Tap Tap See. You have to. I mean, I'm totally blind, so I always have trouble with the camera. You have to make sure that the light is on in your room, like have good lighting on in your room, and also if let's just say you're taking a picture of an article, like a printed article. If it comes out like gibberish the first time, try it again, because sometimes it didn't get a good picture. You might have to hold your camera up or down, depending on how you positioned your camera. And my second comment is there's a website that I use for converting PDFs to Word documents. Like we talked about before with Open Book and the Pearl camera, which I have. The website's called altopdf2word.com. Yeah, I should probably put that in the chat, but yeah, that's a really good website, and it's really accessible with JAWS or NVDA, whatever screen reader you use. And my question is, I think Megan, I believe it was you who mentioned the Read to Go app, the one that syncs up with Bookshare. If you're using VoiceOver, does this still use the TTS voice, or does it use your VoiceOver voice?
This is Megan. I think Emily mentioned it, but you can use, as far as I know, a TTS voice with Read to Go, but Read to Go, from my understanding, is really not being developed as much anymore. So, I know Bookshare also recommends like Voice Stream Reader or other apps like that. If at least Read to Go on the iPhone, I think had kind of stopped being developed, or hadn't been updated for a bit. It may have been now, but I know there was a period of time when it wasn't super updated, and you were able to use I think it was the Heather voice. I could be wrong about that with Read to Go. And then just to touch on your other comments quickly, there is a stand you can get if you have trouble lining up the paper with your Seeing AI or your Tap Tap See or whatever apps you're using. You can get a stand to put your phone in to hold it a little more stable, if that might help you. And also just with the PDF comment too, in addition to the website you mentioned, JAWS now will, if you're a JAWS user, will convert PDFs, image-based PDFs through its own optical character recognition too.
And just to add to that, Alira, I just went on and it looks like you can use Heather or Ryan as your voice options on Read to Go.
To add to what Megan said about VoiceStream, I just think personally VoiceStream is a lot more versatile. You can sync it up with iCloud. You can do a lot more integrations with not just Bookshare. So I'd recommend it just to have something that has the ability to be a little more flexible in terms of how you get and can upload things.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that, Jess. I definitely would recommend VoiceStream, and it has a lot of flexibility.
Thank you all, and thank you for the question, Alira. If anyone has more to add, you can raise your hand by pressing Option Y on a Mac, Alt Y on a PC, or it's *9 if you're calling from the phone. So I think Candace is our next questionee. Let me.
Hello, my name is Candace, and I am a college student at Cal State Northridge. And what I wanted to also comment on is, when you guys referred to a student that is that didn't plan ahead and is rushing around for technology, usually the disability services do have a loaner program. So if you needed a Braille display, they could loan that to you. They also do like loaner programs for calculators and other type of assistive technology, even laptops that has JAWS loaded on it.
If I can comment really quickly, I think that's true to a certain extent, but it really does kind of depend on where you go. I go to a really small kind of private school, and we don't do that. So I think that when it comes even just to looking at colleges, it's important to see what they can offer in times of kind of unrest if something does go wrong with yours.
This is Megan, also just to add to that. Yeah, I mean, I went to a very small college for undergrad. We definitely didn't have that option. And I went to a larger university for graduate school, and that was not an option there. However, what might have been an option is JAWS on a school library computer. So if your technology breaks, you know, hopefully your school has JAWS, although they may not, but I know, for example, my larger university did have JAWS, and I think my smaller college eventually got it around the time I left, maybe. I think they eventually got it. So, you know, checking, like Jessica said, with your school about what technology they might have available for you to use is definitely a good option.
Or NVDA, because my school, I'm the only totally blind student on my campus. We don't have JAWS, so they've just kind of installed NVDA, which is free on all their computers, which has been really helpful. So
definitely.
Yeah, so there's always other options.
I'm dating myself, but NVDA wasn't in existence when I was in college.
I didn't think of that, sorry.
So Mary is next. You have a question for the group, Mary? McLaughlin? You should be unmuted.
No, actually I didn't. I think I accidentally just did that.
Okay. No
Sorry.
And Lizzie, you should be unmuted now.
All right. I'll be a freshman in college, and I just recently started using Fusion. And my question is, if you're using your computer in class with screen reader speech, how do you take that information in as well as what the professor's saying? And how do you tell your professor that you are using the software and it does speak, so you may use headphones in class to listen to feedback?
If I can start, if you guys don't mind, because I'm obviously I'm a junior, so I've been through it. First of all, good luck as a freshman. You've got this. And second of all, when it comes to, I like to have, so when I'm typing notes, I have the keyboard echo off with JAWS or with the screen reader, so it's not repeating every single character. So I'm able to type. I'll have like a headphone in just to check that everything's lined up. But I'm able to type without necessarily hearing every single character, so I can focus more on what the professor is saying. And then in terms of your other question, when I talk to professors, first and foremost, I kind of just tell them, like, I use a computer, it talks, I obviously wear headphones, so it's not distracting, just to make them aware. I've never personally had a problem with a professor telling me I couldn't, but always good to check your, bases on that. But good luck.
I think that's perfect advice, turning your character echo, your screen reader echo off, maybe even just putting in one earbud if you can, things like that so you can still hear the professor. Don't use like heavy earphones that might block out the noise, but maybe just a small one if you can. And that, I think if you do also have, I don't know if you use Braille at all, but that could be another option too.
Great, and looks like Ramona, you have a question. If you're not unmuted, feel free to. Ramona?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a senior. I graduate August, and then I start my master's program August 28th at Florida International University. And I've gone through my undergraduate with just my Victor Reader for class, if that helps anyone. And I don't take any other technology to class because I want to hear what the professor has to say. And I may make it a little more difficult because I'll record the lecture and then I'll come home and translate my notes. So I don't know if that's a suggestion to help anyone, or maybe someone can suggest something that'll help me a little more in my master's journey, if that would be possible.
Yes, my question for you, Ramona, is, this is Emily. Do you find that you have the time to come home and transcribe your notes, or are you feeling like you're doing double the amount of work?
Sometimes I feel like, because I'm a full-time student and I am totally blind. And sometimes I think it is a little much, but that's how I've made it. And in that case, it helps me absorb the information more, especially when it comes to exams. So, but I'm just not, that's why I'm here. I've never been on one of these calls before. But it came in an email that maybe there's something new out there that maybe I could use.
Yeah, so this is Abigail, and I would just say that congratulations on making it through your program and almost about to begin your master's. I would encourage you to, if you don't have a relationship with your state's VR, vocational rehabilitation, they may be able to let you try out some of the tech that Megan and Emily and Jessica have shared here. I think Emily's point is a great one of, do you find that you have the time? Because sometimes trying something new might actually help to alleviate any fatigue, or help you to have more time to do other things, like spend it with family or rest or what have you. So I don't know that any of us could specifically give you a checklist of exactly what might work for you, because it's going to vary from student to student. But connecting with VR, connecting with other, Megan mentioned students with, groups for students with visual impairments. I think those are a great resource. And just being plugged in with other folks who might have similar experiences to you, like our College Success Program, and connecting with our mentors and our community events. So I'm really glad that you joined this call, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Let's see here. We're getting close to the end. Let me see how many. We're actually at the end, I'm sorry. So I don't have time to take, I know we had a few others with questions and a lot of great comments and feedback shared in the chat. We will be providing this recording later, and you can always reach out to us, csp@learningally.org. I'm going to share it back with Kristen now to wrap us up.
We would like to thank everybody for attending the webinar, and thank you, Emily and Megan, for all of your thoughtful information that you shared with everyone. Assistive technology is definitely something where, we really need like 3 hours to do this the right way, I think. And we really, really appreciate your time. And Jessica, we really appreciate your moderating as well. I know it can be nerve-wracking for the first time, so we really appreciate that. Please feel free to reach out to us via email if you would like to work with a mentor in the fall, especially if you're in college or about to go into college. Our email address is CSP, which stands for College Success Program, csp@learningally.org. Thank you so much.